Hey, what's up? I got some more lore content for you guys. My name is Tempo. I've been playing and making content for Riot's card game since its closed beta, specializing in beginner content to help you get into the game, along with peaking rank 1 multiple times on ladder. And I will be your guide for what decks to invest in early, so you can get a jump start in Legends of Runeterra. So before we get into it, there's a few things I'd like to catch you up on so that we're all on the same page. Riot has just implemented a new rotation of cards. This basically means that some cards aren't playable in the standard format anymore. This includes some cards from the tutorial structure decks. This is pretty confusing for new players because we were not given new decks that can be played in standard, so I'm having to work around this and adjust the basic decks as best as I can for you guys. After the tutorial, once you start the PvP side of things, you have an XP bar where you unlock the decks just by playing the game, along with the PvP game modes. I recommend playing the challenges in the play menu to get the base versions of the decks that I'm covering in this video. The next thing you'll want to do is go into the description of this video and copy the deck codes onto your clipboard if you're on PC. Open the lore client, go to collection, and then click on import deck once you have a code. Name it something and then click import so you can start working towards completing your decks as you get resources. If you're on mobile, click on the website link and find the copy deck code button. Open the lore app and it's the same process. As you get wildcards and shards, you'll go to your deck of choice, right click on the cards that have red numbers, and use the resources accordingly. Quick tip, make sure to use your wildcards first. Only use the green shards on champions and sometimes epics. Never spend them on common or rare cards. There's also this fancy buy all button, but it calculates you spending IRL money, and if you want to, then hey, more power to you. The option is there. Until you can complete these decks, I recommend playing the basic versions that you start off with. With that, we can finally talk about the refined versions of these decks that I recommend building towards and climbing with as you discover your favorite playstyle in lore. It'll probably take a week of consistent play to finalize one of these decks. You cannot craft them as is day one, obviously, since the game doesn't give you any additional cards to work with, but I'm giving you a strong direction to work towards. Make sure to check out my tips and tricks guide for how to get cards as quickly as possible. For this beginner video, I wanted the theme to be variety, so I went ahead and made a beginner deck for each of the 3 main playstyles in lore. That way there's a little something for everyone. We'll be starting off with a fast and aggressive aggro deck, before slowing it down with a mid-range deck, and finally slowing it down even more with a reactive control deck. So getting right into the first one, it's been a while since I've been able to recommend an aggro burn deck, so I'm happy to share a refined version of the starter deck, Blades and Buccaneers, aka Pirate Aggro. You start the game with 2 misfortunes, so you have to craft a third one and also replace Darius with Neela. If you can't replace the champions yet, you can always substitute in various 1-cost or 2-cost units, which is nice because they're cheaper to craft, and burn aggro doesn't tend to be a champion reliant strategy anyways. I'd recommend using the Elegant Edge you start off with, Shell Shocker, or 3rd copies of Grenadier and Make It Rain to fill out your extra spots if you can't craft the champions. And getting into the list specifically, this is a go-wide swarming aggro deck. And what that means is you basically want to just spam the board, put a bunch of units out over and over and over, attack relentlessly, and whittle the opponent's Nexus HP to 0. What's really nice is you can put out a lot of pressure early game, which takes advantage of maybe some less refined playstyles, or if the opponent isn't drawing too well, and you can get that early advantage. Again, trying to get to the opponent to a low HP to finish it out with one big attack, or with some direct damage burn spells, aka Noxian Fervor and Double Up. So yeah, let's talk about each card specifically. So we have very, very aggressive 1-cost cards. They all do something. They're either like really high statted, or they have an extra skill whenever something attacks or they themselves attack. You get extra damage directly to the opponent's Nexus. So we're going to be comboing this together, especially if we open like multiple Crackshot Corsairs and then like maybe a Saboteur. You're basically getting a lot of free damage just by playing aggressively, and that's kind of where the identity of aggro decks come from in Legends of Runeterra. It's not just about the stats are fantastic, but we're also doing just like this little bit of chip damage here and there that the opponent always has to pay attention to and always play around. Moving on to the next one, we have Legion Rearguard, who's a 1-mana 3/2. He cannot block, so this unit is not a blocker. He is just going down and swinging. Next we have Saboteur, who's doing a pretty similar thing to Crackshot Corsair, however, she does not activate from the bench. What's really cool, and the big difference between the two, because you might be asking, well, is there a difference? Crackshot Corsair will do 1 extra damage if she's just on the bench, right? Just chilling, hanging back, she's basically popping shots from afar, whereas Legion Saboteur needs to directly go into combat to get the skill off. So that's a little bit of like a thing to keep in mind that differentiates the two. Next we have Precious Pet, a 1-mana 2/1 with Fearsome. Fearsome is an awesome keyword. It makes it hard for the opponent to block, especially with early game units. Next we have Arena Battlecaster. This is going to be one of our cornerstones of the deck actually. He's really good, and he's really hard to punish if the opponent isn't ready for it. So he's one of those cards that's like a massive snowball. If you get Arena Battlecaster and you get like a couple other swarming units on the board, you're just pushing a massive attack, right? The only way to really deal with him is direct damage removal like Mystic Shot, kill removal like Quietus and Soul Harvest from Shadow Isles, or like straight up Avalanche from Freljord. So if the opponent doesn't have like the proper removal tools, you're just going to get away with a big attack with Battlecaster, sometimes multiple big attacks, so that's really where this card comes in. Next we have House Spider, who is a good Arena Battlecaster synergy card, being able to summon 2 bodies for the price of 1, and we care about those bodies because we can buff them with Battlecaster like I mentioned, but also it makes it hard for the opponent to block everything that we're putting on the board. Next we have Legion Grenadier, a 2-mana 3/2, so another pretty nice aggressively statted card. On death, he also guarantees 1 damage to the enemy nexus, so a little bit of damage now, and a little bit of damage later. Next we have 2 Make It Rain. This will target random enemies on the board, and also the enemy nexus. This is actually really good against another aggressive deck, right? That way you can kill some of your opponent's units while getting a little bit of damage to the enemy nexus, like getting you closer and closer to lethal, but also swinging the board in your favor. That way you can attack with more units than your opponent can block with, again just keeping up that pressure. Next we have Mirai Warden, which is a lot like House Spider. You just summon 2 bodies for the price of 1. Love that. Next we have our first champion to talk about, Neela, and this is replacing Darius. Unfortunately, Darius has been rotated, so Blades and Buccaneers does not work in its current form. You will have to adjust the deck quite a little bit to make it standard legal, and again, that is replacing Darius for Neela, is one of the things that you can do. Neela is fantastic. She has Brash, which is basically like Fearsome for HP, so it just makes it hard for the opponent to block her. And if you get an attack with her, then she puts a Slipstream in the top 6 cards of your deck. When you draw a Slipstream, it's another draw card, which is really cool because then you can like cycle through your deck a little bit faster, get more aggressive cards out, refill your hand, maybe use Slipstream to try to find that last little bit of damage that you need to close out the game, right, and get that win. So Slipstream is really good for that. She's super clutch. Her job is literally get 2 damage and 1 Slipstream, and then you're pretty much good. She doesn't really do anything more than that. If she gets killed after, that's fine. Even if she gets killed in the combat that you play her, that's fine. So a lot of times in Legends of Runeterra, new players especially will try to do everything they can to play around the champion. Like, oh, the champion is the cornerstone of the deck. Oh, the champion needs to be leveled. I need to protect my champion. In aggro, that's not really the case, which is really cool. So Neela is just going to be a glorified 2-drop that does more damage and gives you more utility than other 2-drops. That's how you have to think of her in this aggro deck. Same with Misfortune, by the way. A little disclaimer, Misfortune is going to follow the same line of logic. We're just playing like glorified, really strong units because our win con has nothing to do with our champions at all. Our win con is make the enemy's nexus 0 HP by any means necessary. So here is Misfortune, and she's going to be helping us do that with her passive. When allies attack, deal 1 to all battling enemies and the enemy nexus for free. So it's kind of like a Make It Rain, but just massive AoE. You do 1 damage to anything that tries to block you. You do 1 damage to the enemy nexus for free, and she's a 3/3 body, which is nice. Again, we do not care about the level up. We're probably not going to level her. The only time you can level Misfortune is with Scouts, which is not this deck, so don't worry about that. We're just using her for damage, so don't be afraid to play your champions and just swing with them. And rounding out the deck, we have our damage cards, Noxian Fervor. This is a really cool finisher card, where if the opponent has 3 HP left, and they're trying to shoot one of our units, we can react, do Noxian Fervor, kill our unit, deal 3 to the enemy nexus. We just won the game. You can combo multiple fervors on multiple of your different units. That way you can hit like an instance of 6 damage, which feels really good as well. Or you can use this at any point in the early mid game as a reaction to removal spells. So Double Up is an interesting card. This says deal 2 to an enemy. If it kills it, deal 4 to the enemy nexus, which is a big chunk of nexus damage. However, you do have to satisfy this first condition. You do have to kill an opponent's unit that has 2 HP or less with this Double Up card. So this is going to be a high risk card for you, but it's one that I still recommend for new players to learn because it will teach you how to play around certain things. When you try to double up one of your opponent's units and your opponent has like a big deny or they have a buff spell or something like that, then it can feel frustrating that you didn't get your double up off, but it's such a good learning tool because that interaction, that kind of thing is going to happen a lot in Legends of Runeterra with a bunch of different different archetypes, a bunch of different interactions. So even though Double Up seems like, oh, it's like a high risk card, it might not be worth it most of the time, I still think it's really important to play and also play around, especially if you're new getting into the game. And finally, we have Eye of Nagakaboros, which spawns you a 2/2 tentacle while also drawing you 2 cards. So just like I was talking about with the Neela Slipstream, it's nice to draw into, you know, more cards to swarm with for one more attack at the end. It's nice to try to draw into your last little bit of burn that you need to close out the game. So Eye of Nagakaboros does come in here, does clutch up, while also giving you a body that you can open attack with, which means first action attack for the turn. So you can start your turn, Eye of Nagakaboros, have a 2/2 tentacle on top of everything else on your board. Maybe you have Arena Battlecaster already developed, and then you can swing with everything, including your tentacle. So that's really nice. A little bit of extra pressure on top of drawing you some extra cards. Maybe you can draw into a Fervor and close out the game that turn. And that's it for the deck rundown. Burn aggro decks are actually in a pretty interesting spot right now since Legion Rearguard and Saboteur came back from the previous rotation. So you can kind of play like a bunch of just vanilla burn strategies. Another one that I'd recommend, especially for returning players, if you have the old tutorial structure decks, I'd recommend playing Spider Burn. Elise is back. All the fearsome stuff is back. There's a lot of really cool stuff that you can do with Elise. And Rearguard and Saboteur are here, so hey, I would recommend some spiders. Other than that, if you do craft these champions because you like the idea of this deck, you can take Misfortune a different direction and play Scouts, which tries to protect her and level her. Or you can, you know, take Neela and go different directions with her. You can play like Jan and Neela and play that aggressive mid-range turbo draw deck that has a lot of removal options. So both are at your disposal. That's why I think this is a really strong, like, fundamental deck to build as a new player, because all the cards are commons or rares. There's absolutely no epics in here, and the champions can be played in a variety of playstyles. So if you like them here, then you'll probably like them with their other decks too. So definitely would recommend giving this one a shot if you want to play the best version of Burn Aggro in this format of Legends of Runeterra. Now here's a live example game so you can see how the deck plays out. I'll be giving context to why I'm playing certain cards, and hopefully it gives you a good feel on how to play the deck. And for the example game, we're going to be fighting Janna Neela, which is one of the decks I was talking about when I mentioned, you know, you can take Neela a different direction. There it is. Alright, so we are attacking on evens. This is the most important thing to look at. You look over here. Who has the attack token? The opponent does. That means they're attacking on odds. 1, 3, 5, 7. We're attacking on turn 2, 4, 6, 8, right? And so on. So when you're attacking on evens as a burn aggro deck, what you want to do is hard mulligan. You want to mulligan for a bunch of 1-cost cards. We want 3 of them. That way we can play 3 1-drops by turn 2 and just start swarming immediately. So we have a couple chances to draw a final 1-drop, and then we'll be really happy. If not, then I'll just play Sabo into Mirai Warden and kind of be happy anyways. Master Lookout. Alright. We're going to ignore the Master Lookout for now. If they swing, we just take that damage. We do not want to block. We want to be on the aggressive and make sure we get our attack skills out, so no blocking here. And we did open our triple 1-drops, so we're going to do that. 1, 1, 1. Very nice. Get that Crackshot Corsair out too, and then we'll probably swing with everything. I guess we'll see. They could have like Mystic Shot here. They could have Make It Rain. Divine Draft. Alright, interesting. Deal 1 to an enemy, 1 to another. They use that a bit too early, because now we get to keep our Corsair out here and then swing with both. The reason I'm swinging with both is I'm okay if the Crackshot Corsair gets blocked here, because shield trade and I'll also push 3. And in the instance that they block 2-1 to 3-2, then the Crackshot Corsair gets 1 free damage in by attacking. So always fine to attack in that position. If they had like a 2 HP unit, I would not have attacked with Corsair there. Just like a small thing to think about. Mirai Warden, Battlecaster. That's nice. I kind of hope I draw another Mirai Warden or a House Spider off the top. That would make me happy. Also, we have to pray for like a good 1-drop, right? That we get from the Mirai Warden. We don't want to get an Ephemeral. There's a couple of those, and those are really sad. And also 0 attack units. I hate those. Okay, decent. I'll take a 1-1, to be honest. That's fine. That's like average result, or like another 2-1. That's fine. He has quick attack, which means he strikes first. So I can't block. If I try to block, my unit will die. Theirs won't. So I'm just going to go ahead and take that 3 to face. We don't really care about our health. Health is a resource when we play aggro. We're okay sacrificing health as long as we keep our units alive. Oh, I kind of want to do Aid Nagakaboros and then just attack here. That's better than Battlecaster, because Battlecaster would mean they get a defensive action too, and they can set up another blocker, and I don't want them to do that. Aid Nagakaboros gives us an attacker, lets us draw cards, and go straight into the attack phase. So I'm going to go and do that. The reason why that happened is because Aid Nagakaboros is a focus speed spell. Focus does not pass the turn priority to the opponent. We get to like cast it and then continue playing the turn, so that's really cool. Get the 2/2 tentacle, go straight into the attack phase. It's extra damage, extra pressure, and we get to draw more cards. So on defense turn, I can set up like Neela, Battlecaster. If I top deck another 1-cost card, I can play out all of that for my turn 5. And then do open attack again before they can set up a defensive action. Which is kind of like the tug of war that aggro decks tend to play. A lot of the time, it's best to set up on your defense turn. Just let the opponent do what they want. Let them attack, let them hit your face, because the next turn, you're going to hit them even harder, you know? So that's what I'm going to try to do. We'll let that Janna pop off. Can't really do much about her anyways. I'm going to play Battlecaster first and see what happens. They have their own Neela, alright.
It is the monsters that face me.
Yeah, that's fine. I can't block her. I could block you and then kill you with double up, but that might not be worth it. I'm thinking of just playing second Arena Battlecaster. Like, straight up. And then I'm going to open attack, like I mentioned. First action attack before they can set up a blocker. And then just be pretty happy with this. They probably have some kind of removal though, right? Yeah, Mystic Shot. Because they're playing Piltover and Zon and Bilgewater, so they have a lot of damage spells. Like, even I have a bunch of damage spells. And there they are.
I rally the mighty wind.
So that means I'm not going to do open attack. They had a lot of removal here. I do need to set up because my board is not good enough to win. So I will play this Neela. I also have Noxian Fervor in my pocket, and I have Double Up in my pocket, depending on how they block. Double Up can execute something and just chunk their Nexus for 4 HP. So we're going to try to go for that. And also if I get this attack off, then I get to draw more cards.
Your strength is lacking.
That's so fine. Like, let that go through, please. And then I will double up that Janna. Their region combo can't really deal with double up. They don't have access to deny, and they don't have buff spells. So the double up is just going to be guaranteed. Sure. I'll just, as a response, whip that real quick. Pop, pop. Deal with their more annoying champion, the more prominent one, that discounts whenever they draw. That's 4. Next turn, I can double up again, kill the Neela, and then Noxian Fervor will be lethal if I can get that off later. Oh, another Janna. Right. That's fine.
Storm unrelenting.
And I have Slipstream. So, yeah, I think we're okay. I will block the Janna, and then I will also double up the Neela. I could have also done like a Mirai Warden block to this Janna. That way she's double upable and also not a Brash blocker. That might have been better. We'll see if it makes a difference. It doesn't really make a difference because I get to keep a stronger attacker.
My wind is at your back. Go.
Alan Gale, number 2. The only issue with Fervor is, like, just whipping it out is dangerous. Also, they have so many champions. Oh! Oh! Make your ains guaranteed lethal, guys! Watch this. And boom. Nice little top deck cheese before I even needed to do anything else. I do have extra draw in case I need. I do have the Fervor in case they had like proactive removal and they ran out of cards in their hand and it was guaranteed. So, handshake emoji. Well played. Pirates outpaced Jan and Neela just by a little bit. And by the way, Jan and Neela's a meta deck. I just covered it recently on Meta Report. So, this beginner aggro deck can stand toe-to-toe with some of the best decks in the game. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Nice. Well played, Jan and Neela. And for this next deck, like I did mention earlier, we are going to slow it down a little bit and try to play a little bit more into the mid game. So we're going to be setting up units like turns 1 through 4, and then we care more about winning like turn 6, turn 7, turn 8. So yeah, we're going to be slowing it down a little bit. We're going to be playing a couple units and protecting those units and making them a reoccurring threat for the opponent, rather than the last deck where we just, you know, threw a bunch of things on the board and didn't care what happened to them. We do care about units in this deck. So yeah, we're going to be utilizing the Overwhelm keyword as well. This is another take on the Udyr midrange deck that I covered in the last 3 decks beginners video. It was a fan favorite. A lot of people like this deck. A lot of people gravitated towards it. It's the same foundational core as last time. However, Darius did get rotated. That means I did have to replace him for Sejuani this time. Sejuani's like a pretty good finisher as well, to be honest. The main cornerstones of the deck are the Omen Hawk and Yadulski combo. Now, what these cards do is either on play or on attack respectively, they buff the top 2 units of your deck. So when you draw into them, they're going to have increased stats, and you're going to be able to use those to push even more damage and outpace the opponent. So yeah, this deck really cares about stats. Even a singular +1/+1 goes a long way. So if you stack them and you get multiple and you curve those units into each other, right? Like let's say you play Omenhawk on 1, Yadulski on 2, and then a buffed 3 cost into a buffed 4 cost, right? You are just going to be pushing so much momentum going into the mid game. So yeah, that's kind of what this deck is all about. So Omenhawk, really, really good for that. Other than that, we have Blade Squire, who will give you a blade piece that you can use to buff one of your allies. The buffs include a +2 attack bonus, Overwhelm, which is piercing damage, which we care about, or Quick Attack, which makes your unit strike before the enemy blocker, meaning your unit can come out of combat unscathed if it's strong enough. Next, we have Frostcoat Cub, who can be played as a 2-mana 2/3, very good vanilla body, or if you draw this card later, you can also play it as a 6-cost, big 7/5 swing with Overwhelm. So really, really nice. I like this kind of like flexible option that really teaches new players, I can play this card now, or I can save it for later, you know, type thing. So I really like that additional just like option to have. Next, we have Sky Splitter, which is one of the best protection spells in the game. You can use this whenever your opponent is trying to use direct damage to kill your units, or you can use it to win combat. Same with Troll Chant, another fantastic combat trick that can push things into your favor. You can give one of your allies +2 HP, reduce one of your opponent's attacks by 2, and you can do it on like the same combat. You can do it on 2 different units that are in combat and just win that way. Super, super strong card. Next, we have Vulpine Wanderer. When I'm summoned, create a stance swap in hand. Stance swap is going to beat a lot of our pressure, and it's also our Udyr specific card. So stance swap is a 3-cost slow speed spell that says, grant the stance to an ally. So you cast the spell, pick an ally, and then you get to apply one of these buffs to it. Either a +2/+2, a +2 and Overwhelm for that nice piercing damage, a +2 HP and regen for additional health and protection, or Ram Stance, dealing a little bit of damage to everything, including your own allies and your own Nexus, so keep that in mind when you want to ram. What's really nice is Udyr will make Stance Swap free, and then you can also generate more, and the Stance Swaps helps level Udyr, which we'll talk about when we get to him, but really, really good pressure, and it's nice that the Vulpine Wanderer gives us one for free on top of being a good 2/2 body. Next, we have Yadulski, 2-mana 2/3. On attack call, grant the top 2 allies in your deck +1/+1. We love those stats. Iron Ballista, 3-mana 4/3 with Overwhelm. Really good, just vanilla Overwhelm unit. Is super, super strong if it gets hit by Omenhawk or Yadulski. Next, we have Mighty Poro, another really strong vanilla Overwhelm unit for the same reason. Next, we have Babbling Beard, a 4-mana 3/4. When I'm summoned, draw a unit with 5+ power, so that adds a little bit of draw and consistency to the deck. Babbling Beard will always hit Udyr or Sejuani, or funnily enough, maybe like a buffed Red Barb Razor Mace if this gets buffed in deck by Omen or Yadulski. Technically, you could draw that too, but yeah, Babbling Beard is just nice because he can curve you into the mid-game like power spike champions that you're looking for. Red Barb Razor Mace is a 4-mana 4/4 with Overwhelm. On Nexus Strike, curse your opponent with Ichor, so this card gets added to your opponent's hand, and while it's in their hand, they take 1 damage every round start unless they pay the 3 mana to get rid of this. What's really cool is this card can stack, by the way, so if you have multiple Red Barb Razor Maces and they both swing, then the opponent will get 1 Ichor card that does 2 damage to them every turn, but costs 6 to get rid of. And yeah, that can keep stacking. So it's really, really annoying for the opponent. Really strong card. Again, fantastic to play around if it does get hit by the Omen or Yadulski +1/+1 buffs. Next, we have Udyr, who gets stronger whenever you stance swap, right? He levels if you play 3 stance swaps over the course of the game, which feels really, really good. Also, on play or on strike, he will generate a stance swap for you, or if you already have one, he'll make it cost 0. That way you can play it for free, which feels awesome. When he levels, he gains a bunch of stats based on how many stance swaps you've played over the course of the game, and then you can put Overwhelm on him and make him a big dude, right? So, very, very strong, nice pressure tool, really good win con. Next we have Sejuani, our other champion, 6 mana 5/6, also with Overwhelm. On play, give an enemy Frostbite, so change its attack to 0, and also vulnerable, so you can grab it. This is really nice against some like pesky mid-game champions that the opponent is developing, like Victor, or like Janna, or something like that. Sejuani can just pull them into combat and deal with them for you, while also being an overwhelmed body. So she's just kind of like Darius at home. I know, again, I'm like replacing Darius. We don't really care about her level up condition. Sometimes you can get it, but not really. So don't really worry about Sejuani level 2 too much. She's just another like big card to play in the mid game that generates value. And finally, we have 1 Shaman's Call. Create 2 fleeting 0-cost stance swaps in hand. So this is like a way to turbo level Udyr. It's 6 mana, you get 2 free stances, so you might as well use them. And then boom, you can just like top off your Udyr, you can give him more buffs, you can give him Overwhelm if you haven't been able to yet, you can give him the +2/+2 from Bear, or you can just like ram stance a bunch of stuff too and go for like direct damage lethals if your opponent only has 2 Nexus health remaining. You can just ram twice and you'll win that way. So a lot of cool stuff you can do with Shaman's Call as well. Some other cards to think about in this deck for replacements. There's the Blade-bound Berserker. She's literally a common. She's really easy to slot in. If you don't have Sejuani or you don't want to craft Sejuani, you can play Blade-bound Berserker instead and only run Udyr as your only champion. This increases the consistency of the deck a little bit because Battling Bjerg will only hit the Udyr if you sack the Sedge, right? So this is great. Also, it's a fantastic segue into one of the meta decks right now, which is Udyr Morgana, and it plays around the Blade-bound Berserker, so I would recommend giving that, you know, some thought. It's just not like a super new player friendly combo, so that's why I didn't have it in the base version of this list, and why I'm mentioning it now instead. Another thing you can think about is the other stance swap card. Stance swap. The Hyara Allseer. I think you start with 1 in the Seer's structure deck, but you can craft like an extra and play like 2 Hyara Allseer if you want. Also, if you want to drop Mighty Poro, you can do that too. And then you can make this like a little bit more of an intermediate, a little bit more like refined like meta list and go for like a meta overwhelm kind of list, right? You can drop the Mighty Poro, drop the Sedge, and do some stuff with that. The deck has a lot of flex spots, but again, it's one of those other amazing decks that can be pivoted to other strategies that utilize the same champion. That's why I'm giving like this core, and then it can be used elsewhere. For example, there is that Udyr Morgana deck I talked about, but there's also Udyr Galio, which is fantastic. So would also recommend giving both of those a shot, since they're both mid-range decks, which plays at the same pace and the same playstyle as this one. And that's it for the deck rundown. Now here's a live commentary game, so you can see how the deck plays out. And for this example game, we're fighting the trusty Braum Kale. Alright, so the general mulligan strategy for our deck is we want variety. We want flexibility. This is not that. This is all spells. Like, oops, all spells. We want a combination of early game units and 1 or 2 protection spells. I think with this hand, we keep a Troll Chant, right? Just 1 Troll Chant. Pitch the rest. Yeah, we really want to see like Omen, Yadulski, which we got, which is nice. Udyr, hello friend. They have an Omen. If they hit Omen into Yadulski and we don't, it's going to be crazy. That's just like the Freljord Classic, though. Okay, they did. They hit the Omen into the Yadulski. That's alright, we got our own. Our own Yadulski boy. So yeah, they could probably have like massive Braum, massive Kale. You gotta be a little careful of that. Oh, okay. So we hit kind of the same thing. This is definitely worth a troll chant. No doubt. I want my Udylski to stay nice and healthy. This is basically a pseudo heal him back to a 2-3. We're also damaging theirs, so that's good. And then I'm going to play Omen Hawk as well. So we're going to be double dipping the 2-2, just like they are. Okay. Wow, they are stacked. They opened Omen, Udylski. We opened Omen, Udylski. Like, this is Freljord versus Freljord in 2025. That's just what this looks like. And then we can Babbling Beard. I mean, sure. I'm gonna put my Omen Hawk in front of that. Because if they have Sky Splitter, then my Udylski dies. But I guess I could match Sky Splitter, but I don't want to match Sky Splitter. I want to play Beard. Let's go, Beard. Sejuani. Okay, cool.
Our eyes lead to hidden paths.
Vulpine Wanderer. Alright, so I want to play Mr. Udyr, probably. And that's a scary Vulpine Wanderer. Oh, big Udyr, look at that. 5 mana, 7/7. Love to see it. And then when Udyr attacks, the stance swap that he generated will become free. That way we can put extra HP and regen on him. Oh, the Cosmic Youngling's gonna get some HP. Alright, sounds good. I don't really care about that too much. And I don't think we're attacking with Udylski. No. Yeah. That's fine. They're going to chump block with the Omen. Our stance swap is now free. Let's get that regen on him. And then start making him real big. They are in Targon, so if Sunburst is still in standard, which I don't know if it is, then Sunburst and like Hush and things like that can deal with Udyr. But that's kind of it. That's a big Frostcoat Cub. +2/+2 bonus on it's nice. A 5/10? 5/10 with Overwhelm. Okay, yeah, let's play the Frostcoat Mother. That's a 9/7. I raise you that. I raise you a 9/7. Scar Mother Vrina? Yeah, that's what I thought. You ain't doing nothing. And then I can Sejuani. Whip.
Blood and death for the Winter's Claw.
Go ahead and swing into that with a proactive Sky Splitter. Might as well try. 7/9 goes, 5/6 goes, and then we pass. Do not swing with the others. Let's just try to like win out on the board. I feel like they're probably pretty unit heavy, since they're also playing Omen and Udylski. Oh, they do have Pale Cascade though. They should have paled the Skarmother Vrina. Fascinating. That didn't really do much for them. They definitely should have protected the Vrina. Alright, well, fair enough. Pale Cascade's nice. Good card to run from Targon, so makes sense to me. Purifying Flames, yep. I mean, my stats are bigger than their stats, and I think that's what this matchup comes down to. Hello, Mahira, Aspect of Justice, how are you doing? How are you, my friend? Things I don't want to do. Spirits Unleashed and Ram Stance. That's right. Definitely things I do not want to do.
Undying Boar.
Why are you giving me that? Alright, let's Overwhelm Stance the Udyr now. Alright, I could just win on next attack. Boom! Big stance swaps. Big Udyr. Like, he gets so massive out of nowhere. Yeah. Let's go! Champion Diff. And for the final deck, we have a slow-paced, reactive, removal-focused deck, and that is Senna Control featuring Kindred. So this is similar to a Senna list that I covered in the last one. However, instead of Vex, I believe I covered as the second champion, Kindred is back in standard, and Kindred is a fantastic removal champion for Shadow Isles. They also combo pretty well together because they can be played back to back for even more pressure. So yeah, the main theme of this deck is to sit back, relax, and kill what the opponent is trying to do / develop. You have a theoretical reactive tool to just about everything. Every kind of card type can be dealt with in some way with this deck. So again, this one is just going to be, you know, chill and make the opponent surrender because everything they try to do, you tell them no. You put your hand up and you say, no thank you, that's being killed. Or that card that you're trying to develop, yeah, that's dealt with already, right? And this can also put your opponent really, really far behind if you do this to their champions, which this deck has access to champion killing. So absolutely fantastic in all regards there. This is definitely a better list than the last one that I covered back in November, so I'm really happy with this one. And we'll be starting off with Burgeoning Sentinel, a 1-mana 1/2 with Fearsome. The first time you kill a unit with a spell, grant me +2/+1. So a pretty good unit you can set up in the early game, block, like burn aggro cards, or you can like have this developed, kill one of your opponent's units with a spell, and then boom, it's a 1-mana 3/3, which is just beyond premium. Like, that's so insane. And then you can use this as an early and mid-game blocker, while also getting random Fearsome pressure in. I don't know, this card just does everything. Dual card, fantastic inclusion. Next we have a couple Quietus, 1-mana slow speed spell. Kill a unit with total power and health of 4 or less. So you can kill a 2/2, you can kill a 1/3, a 3/1, whatever. As long as the stats equal 4 or less, Quietus can deal with it, including champions. Or you also have the ability to destroy a unit's equipment. Now, equipment are like weapon cards. If you fight Kane Aatrox Cultists, you know, things like that, things that have like weapon reliance, you can use Quietus to just 1 mana, kill the weapon. Next we have Seize the Sentry, which is a 2-mana 2/1 blocker that also draws you a card on death, replacing itself, while also dealing with one of your opponent's aggressive units. Conchologist, a 2-mana 2/1, manifest a spell from your regions that cost 3 or less. So the game will show you 3 Bandle City, or Shadow Isles cards that cost 3 or less, and you get to pick one. It's always going to be a spell, it's always going to be 3 cost or less, and most of those are removal cards. So if you didn't draw like a very specific card that you want from your deck, like let's say Glimpse or like a Vile Feast, Conchologist can just make it for you for free, and that is fantastic. Next we have Glare, a 2-mana slow speed spell. Grant a unit Gloom to draw 1. You subtract -1/-1 from your opponent's units, and also get to draw to replace itself. Really good, and will kill the opponent's unit if it does have 1 HP, of course. Next we have Glimpse Beyond. Kill an ally to draw 2. So for the most part, you're going to be using this reactively, like when your opponent is trying to kill one of your units, like let's say you have a Conchologist on the board and they want to get rid of it with like Make It Rain, right? Then you can Glimpse, turn your already dying Conchologist into a draw 2, which is fantastic. That way you can get into more tools, right? More resources. You can also use it proactively, like in the mid game, in case you and your opponent are both in top deck phase and you don't have a lot of resources. You can Glimpse something and continue pressuring that way. Next we have Portal Pioneer, which is a really strong tech card, really flexible, gives you 1 spell mana back on play, so you're basically casting or playing this for 1, which feels really good, and then you get to choose one of these 4 cards and add it to your hand. They're all really flexible matchup specific cards that you can use to offset the matchup in your favor. So we have destroy a unit's equipment for 2, destroy a landmark for 2, turn off opponent's keywords for 2, or heal your Nexus for 2. That way you can basically deal with everything, right? You can deal with weapon decks like Cultists, you can deal with landmark decks like Jan Anila's Sunken Temple, you can deal with keywords like Elusive and Overwhelm, or you can just heal versus aggro. So really, really good card. Next we have a couple Soul Harvest, 2-mana slow speed spell. Kill a follower with 3 or less power, or spend 1 additional mana to kill a champion with 3 or less power. So pretty cool. Can use this on just like an important unit that the opponent is developing, or a champion that they're developing, as long as they have 3 or less power by the time the Soul Harvest resolves. You can also combo this, by the way, with like Glare. So if you Glare, like subtract something 1/1, like let's say a 4 attack champion, well now it's going to be Soul Harvestable because you just gloomed it down to 3. So that's another really cool thing to keep in mind with this deck, is the spells are not just played by themselves. You can also play the spells together, right? And make some of your own like little creative combos like that. Next we have Vile Feast. Drain 1 from a unit to summon Spiderling. Drain 1 is just a fancy way of saying deal 1 but also heal 1, right? So yeah, you're going to drain something for 1 and also get a 1/1 blocking body. Very, very good. We have another Sentinel card, just like our 1 cost one. This one is a buffer. So 3 mana 3/3. The first time you kill a unit with a spell, grant me +2/+1. He self buffs to a 5/4. That's very good too. Also with fearsome. Legion of the Severed, 3 mana 4/2. Grant Deathless to an ally in hand. Deathless says the next time the unit would die, remove Deathless and revive it stunned with 1 health instead. So really nice. You can Deathless one of your champions, like your Kindred or your Senna, right? And also have a 4/2 body. So that's nice. Gives them a little bit of pseudo protection, makes them harder to deal with, and you can continue pressuring in the mid game because you have a reoccurring champion threat. Next, we have Aloof Travelers. When I'm summoned, all players draw 1. Then your opponent discards their highest cost card. So you draw 1, your opponent draws 1, but they discard their highest cost card, which is really, really, really strong. So kind of what you're doing, right? Like, think of it like this. You're using your removal spells and dealing with your opponent's early game units and champions. And then you're also playing Aloof in the mid game, which discards your opponent's highest cost card. Like, let's say it's one of their big spells that they need to win the game, or like one of their big units. You're actively killing both your opponent's early game stuff and your late game stuff by playing this deck. So it just kind of makes it really hard for the opponent to play the game. Next we have 3 Kindred. Kindred's a 4 mana 4/3 with quick attack. Each round, the first time you slay a unit, so this is a kill, you can kill your own ally with Glimpse Beyond, by the way, and this would count as a slay. So that's why there's like a difference in wording here. So you can kill one of your opponent's units with a spell, or you can kill one of your own units, and this effect will happen. I will mark the weakest enemy. Round end, kill units with my mark. So this is like a little bit of a 2-for-1 deal. Let's say your opponent has a 1/1 and a 2/2. If you kill the opponent's like 1/1 with Vile Feast, Kindred will mark the 2/2 and then automatically kill it round end. And that's just insane. If you get this off like once, that's so annoying for the opponent to deal with, right? That's so much pressure. You just killed another unit for free just by Kindred being here. And she's like a pretty good body. 4/4/3 with quick attack is pretty nice. Also, you give her Deathless, she's even more annoying to deal with. So really cool there. And she levels up if you've slain 2 enemies with her mark and she's seen it happen. And then she basically just gets a bunch of stats, right? A lot of text just for saying Kindred will keep doing what Kindred already does, but get bigger while doing so, and more annoying to deal with. So, very strong control tool. Next we have Senna, 5 mana 4/4, also with quick attack. When I'm summoned or attack, create a darkness in hand if you don't have one. Your damage and kill spells accelerate to fast, which is primarily going to be darkness. It's darkness synergy. So you'll get a 3 mana fast speed, deal 2 to an enemy in your hand. And it will continue to be fast speed as long as Senna stays on the board. So really cool. You basically get 3 mana Mystic Shot. If you kill 3+ units with spells, Senna will level, and then also make it 2 mana on top of whatever else she's doing, right? Another control tool. She gets reoccurring darknesses. You can use those because why not, right? And that's kind of where the value of this deck comes in. It is quite literally a resource-based control deck. You are generating free removal cards, and you are killing your opponent's units with that. Think of it like this. If your opponent has 5 cards in hand, and you have 5 cards in hand, but you generated like 2 or 3 removal spells and you use them, well now, by the end of both of you playing out everything, your opponent has 0 cards, and you have 3, or however many you generated. And that's kind of like, again, where the value of this deck comes in. You want to just be ahead of the opponent. You want to have more cards than them on board and in your hand. You want to generate more stuff and make them feel like they can't come back. They cannot deal with the difference in pressure, the difference in cards that both of you have access to. So that's where like a lot of aggressive decks, if they get Vile Feasted or Quietist and you have a Bridging Sentinel on the board, the aggro deck will just instantly FF. They will leave the game because they cannot come back from that deficit immediately, and you're going to be trying to push that deficit over and over and over no matter what matchup you're fighting. So just kind of think of it like that. Think of it as like a resource game rather than anything else. Also, rounding out the list, we have 2 Vengeance, right? 6 mana, kill a unit. Nice. That's pretty good. You can just kill like really big things that are developed. So yeah, and that's going to round out the list. So like I mentioned with previous decks, right, in this video, there are some directions you can go after this. I would say if you want to play this playstyle, there's a lot of Mordekaiser decks out there. He's definitely the best Shadow Isles control champion. And you can play him with Kindred. You can play him with Nora. I don't really think Senna sees too much play, but I wanted to make sure this deck is geared towards new players, and you do start with a couple Senna. There aren't really like great replacements though. I would say like run this deck as is, and then try to build like a meta version of like a Mordekaiser deck, right? So I had some refinements with the previous ones. I don't really have too many replacements. You could probably replace the Kindred for Nora if you open her first. You could probably get Mordekaiser in here if you want, and then you can play around Aloof Travelers more because Mord will resurrect the Aloof, giving you more discards for your opponent to deal with, and that's pretty awesome. But yeah, definitely think about that. If you like this control playstyle, if you like how Shadow Isles feels, definitely invest in a like Mordekaiser control deck, and be on the lookout for meta reports because I do cover like the best decks in the meta, and oftentimes Mordekaiser and Nora do come up. So definitely drop a sub if you've enjoyed this video so far, and so you don't miss uploads like that. And that's it for the deck rundown. Now here's a live commentary game. And for this example game, we're going to be fighting Spiderburn, which is actually like a perfect deck to go against because I can really focus and like accentuate the key aspects of control. So we want an early game unit, we want an early game removal card. I'm not keeping Kindred. Kindred's fine. Kindred is better versus like the aggressive mid-range strategies like Lurk, things that are a bit slower, but like full on Spiderburn, I do not want to get outpaced. So I want, yeah, all 1s and 2s, please. We have Fearsome, so we can attack here. And then as soon as I glare this Precious Pet, I will win the game next turn. I promise. Especially if they play Elise. I will win instantly. There will be nothing they can do. And they will be punished for playing Elise on attack too. Alright, that's also fine. If they play Arachnoid Horror, now it's a different story. I will trade kind of like a 1-for-1. Yeah. Because my Glare replaces itself, and then my unit kills the Arachnoid Horror. They have 4 cards in hand, I have 5. So we're up 1. So for here, I kind of want to pass and see what they do. If they play Elise, I can do Glare Quietus. If they play just anything else that's killable, I can do Glare or Quietus. Or I can play Buru Sentinel. It kind of depends. With this kind of deck, we can take our time, right? We do not have to play like super aggressive. Yeah, let's do the Glare Quietus combo. I think it's worth. That was a top deck, Elise. And Quietus. Yeah, she had stat points of 5, so I couldn't do Quietus right away because she's a 2-3 body. I do a little wombo combo. We can refill our hand no problem anyways, right? We have 2 draw cards, and we have Conch. Ouse. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the Ceaseless Sentry. And probably a Vile Feast this turn. We'll see. Oh, they're also doing a Vile Feast. Well, that's kind of rude, don't you think? Okay. Sure, I guess. Let's do Conch. Conch will get us a Hate Spike or Wallop. Both are fantastic, actually. Let's do the Wallop.
Let us take a peek at life beneath the waves.
It's another 1 damage ping. Why not, right?
Easy does it.
Yeah, and like Hate Spike means self-sacrifice. I'd have to kill one of my own units. Might not be in the position to do that, whereas Wallop, I can just cast this. So I mean, like, this is paced amazingly for us. It's going into turn 5, they have almost no cards in hand, and they've done almost no damage to me. The main takeaway was literally just the turn where I didn't play anything, and I baited a pass, letting them play first, right? That allowed me to be reactive and deal with their Elise, instead of just playing like my 3-3 guy. I didn't need to. Sometimes you don't have to play. It is 100% okay if you have the spell mana and you're ready to reserve it anyways, to just pass and see what your opponent does. Check their intentions, and then act accordingly. Yeah, that's pretty fine. I'll Vile Feast that. Vile Feast will heal me 1. They'll summon some spiders. I'll get a buff. I'll get to attack. Why not? Their spiders are worth more than mine, so I'm okay to attack with mine, essentially. What else? We can do Legion of the Severed. Target the Aloof. That's kind of cool. Oh, Shrieking Spinner. That's pretty scary. Good thing I have Wallop. I'm glad I kept that. Or generated it from the Conch. Because I don't think it's vengeanceable. I'm pretty okay to just Wallop this and then block the Spiderlings. Bop, bop. And then what? Conch again? Yeah, I'm down to Conch again. Whoa! Brother Spawn is big, actually. Scary, scary. Conch again. Purple Berry Shake's pretty cool. Glimpse is pretty cool. Condense is pretty cool. Grab the Shake.
Wondrous discoveries await below.
It's a big buff. You can use that to win a combat or something. Let's do Legion of the Severed Aloof and then play the Aloof. That way, when the Aloof dies, I'll get another discard.
Look, a thing.
L, that's not ours.
Discard Noxian Fervor. So their highest cost card in hand is 3. And that's also a direct damage kill spell that we just got rid of. That feels awesome. Very, very nice. Now I can swing with everything and be pretty happy. Because I have the Purple Berry Shake in my pocket for a random buff that I generated. Fervor? Okay. I'm fine with that. Why not? Yep. That's gonna get Purple Berry Shaked. We should win off of this. Like, it's so hard for them now. Like, they cannot play. 2 cards in hand. We know highest cost card was 3, so these are just, like, low cost things. Yeah. It's more little spoders. More little spoders, yeah. And if they try to play something big, I have Vengeance. There's quite literally no way for them to reach lethal anymore.
Just kill me.
I'm actually gonna, like, sack my Aloof Travelers and make them discard another card, because I think it's funny. I get to draw as well. Shows you guys a little combo interaction, too. So Aloof will resummon from Deathless, and then boom, there goes a Vile Feast. Play the Senna.
One goes down, thousands to go.
More spiders! Dude, they're everywhere. I'm getting swarmed. Go ahead and do a Darkness. Because I can.
Getting dark.
It's cool that Senna speeds up the Soul Harvest. I like that. That's kind of neat. Conch. More options. I love more options. Fading Memories, because why not?
Peek at life beneath the waves.
Arachnoid Horror. Right. Severed. That's Sentry. Swing. 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 Pass.
Darkness and light.
Yeah, you're gonna let me draw a card? That's awesome. And they should have surrendered already. It's been too far gone for a while.
Can a spirit fight to the death? Thinking I'll learn soon.
Now I'm just kind of chilling. I'm just like listening to music, having a good old time.
Concentrated forgiveness.
Bye-bye to that.
Oh, dancing partner.
Persistence is key.
Block all that. Going for some value trades, sacrificing the only thing I'm okay with sacrificing at the moment. Fading Memories. Hey, would you like a card?
Something.
You can have a card. Oh, by the way, just discard it. Goodbye, House Spider. Sorry, I'm being mean. I know how it feels to be a control player. And that's it for this beginner guide. Extra shout out to the patrons on screen. Much love and thank you for supporting. Make sure to like and subscribe if you thought this video helped at all. It really means a lot and shows the video to more people, so hopefully it can be seen by other beginners that need it. Feel free to check out my deck building guide for some tips on how to build your own decks from scratch. Also, come check me out on Twitch. I stream regularly, so come say hi. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one. Laters.